What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Littleroot Lessons, episode 307. I'm your host, Angelo, and I'm joined by a very special returning guest today, June Lintner. Junie, how are you?
Doing very well, Angelo. And for the second time, I'm honored that you're calling me a very special guest.
What do you mean the second time? It's not like we didn't have technical difficulties 5 minutes ago and had to redo this. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, we're breaking the fourth wall, but absolutely, I'm going to make sure people know that what something happened to your microphone.
Yep, no, it just decided not to do its thing. But yeah, we are back. Carl and Carter are currently away, well, sort of away. We have Carter at work, and Carl, for some reason, is doing a Christmas party on January 18th, because that's when work said to do it.
Ridiculous date.
You know, well, actually, I know we just went and vamped on this. We don't have to do this. Vamp on it again. He does work in the restaurant industry, and like at a restaurant. So maybe it's the sense of they can't do the party during the holidays because they're too busy cooking for other parties during the holidays.
That which is understandable up until like the first week of January. Because
Yeah.
the holidays end then.
No, you could have easily done this last week.
Absolutely, it could have, and arguably should have.
Yeah, because this is the first week we've had since late November where we actually have a live event to talk about. Yes, the VGC hiatus, that little winter break that the Pokemon Company told us to take, is finally over. We have our first regional, honestly, our first North American event literally in 2 months. Our last North American event was Las Vegas Regionals back in, was it 2 weeks before Thanksgiving? It was the weekend of like the
It was
14th or
Indigenous Peoples
16th.
Day, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a while, and I'm really excited to have you join me in diving into these teams and some of the stuff that our friends were able to play as well. We had a lot of New Englanders at this event because this is the closest event we got to where we live. The fun 8.5 hour and one border crossing drive.
Classic.
Yeah, give. I'm not even going to ask for like Secaucus. Like, give us Philly. I would prefer Philly, actually. Give us Philly in the fall. Give us a
You
Philly
would
regional.
like Philly.
Yeah, I mean, not for the fact that I wouldn't need to get a hotel room. I would just stay with my brother.
Yeah.
Little bit of like home court advantage there, but yeah, just something that's like 4 hour drive, 5 hour drive, not
Now,
like.
Worcester, Massachusetts, or bust. If I'm not playing at the DCU Center, I don't want to be there.
Actually, no, we want it to be Providence. We absolutely want it to be Providence.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Ignore the fact that it would be a 10-minute drive for me now, or at least will be.
Yeah, it'd be a 10-minute drive, and they'd have to cap it at 350. And that's
Oh,
perfect regional.
they do Comic-Con there. It's big. They do Comic-Con there. It's big enough. Actually, I don't know if I said this on the pod or not. I might have said this at some point. Story time though. The way that regionals were, when they changed regionals from like it being a only 2 weekends out of the entire year. So like every single regional happened. It was usually the third weekend and fourth weekend of April, and every regional happened then. So like regionals were actually like a regional event because you would go with the people in your area. When they changed that over to the current system where it would be a single city and everyone would go to that area, the first regional that they did in the new system was Providence back in the fall of 2011. So there's your fun little Pokemon history fact there. So we've done it before in Providence. We can do it again. I will just keep wish casting it. Yeah.
Anything. Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, just not, like, again, like, I want to drive to a regional that I don't need a passport to get to.
It'd be nice.
But before we do get to that regional, I do have some breaking news in the Littleroot Lessons expanded universe, so to speak. So Tim from Lab Mouse reached out to me today, who has also been a community member at Littleroot Lessons for well over 5 years, is one of our mods. He's been working on a Lab Mouse, just rebrand and redesign. And one of the really cool aspects of the new Lab Mouse is they have a merch store. So the merch store features the classic Chemousts on hoodies and t-shirts, and water bottles, desk pads, etc. Mugs, which I'll definitely be getting. We also see on the stickers and the embroidered sweaters, hats, and toques the brand new Lab Mouse logo that Tim will be officially rolling out within the next few weeks. We will be seeing a full rebrand and update of Lab Mouse. You can buy all of this merch at labmouse-shop.fourthwall.com. And we even have a code for everyone to use, which is Tim just messaged me, so I lost it. There we go. Launch promo for 20% off for the first 2 to 3 weeks of the store being open. So as of right now, the date is January 18th, 2026. You can use the code launch promo, all one word, for 20% off your first order at Lab Mouse. Support Tim. He does Lab Mouse from the goodness of his heart. This is something that was a passion project for him. Honestly, towards the beginning of Littleroot lessons, it was the seeds of both Lab Mouse and Passers were from a podcast / community tournament between Littleroot Lessons, Pokesports, and ATX VGC. And to see those little Littleroot Lessons based passion projects turn into two of the most used tools in VGC prep is really cool. With that being said, Tim is not able to. Toronto hasn't been updated yet, so he sadly cannot use Lab Mouse to talk about Toronto regionals. We will be using the Pokedata website, but of course, you will probably at the time the listeners, you're all listening to this, Lab Mouse should have all of this information updated on their website for the tour. My mic didn't go again, did it?
No, you're still here.
Oh, awesome. Okay,
Sorry.
we're leaving the. We're gonna leave that in. Little treat for the listeners. Okay, Toronto. You want to just start with our first place team, or do you have any general thoughts?
General thoughts are I tried to watch as much of this as I could this weekend. Unfortunately, in Regulation F, and especially Regulation F Part 2, you got a couple of built-in nap breaks, depending on the matchups throughout the day. The first impressions from the tournament, there are some very cool things, and it's awesome that Roaring Moon won a regional. I love her. And also, looking at our screens, just kind of a snooze fest, They're you're either playing RNG games or you're playing balance mirrors.
Yeah, and I think when people complain about this format, that is the main thing. It's either balance mirrors or lead roulette with your RNG. I don't hate the format as much. I'll say this: I kind of like it a little more than Regulation H. I don't know. I like that I like that slightly higher power format. Not I'm not saying I always want every format to be a restricted format, because even that just gets old. But I want it to just a little extra power. I want it to get to the power level where Farigiraf is good, but everything else around it is kind of manageable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I definitely, one of my biggest gripes with the format is that, yes, it's very balance heavy. You do see a million Incineroars, Urshifus, Rillabooms, Amoonguses, etc. on your screen. But the issue with kind of the way these balance mirrors interact is that so many of the balance pieces can just one-hit KO the other balance pieces.
Yeah.
You've got your Urshifu clicking Surging Strikes and Incineroar. You've got your Incineroars, because they're going a little bit more offensive, one-hit KOing the Rillabooms. The Rillabooms kill the Urshifus, and then Terra just flips all those on their heads. You've got a clear Amulet Terra ground Rillaboom here in Top Cut that flips the Incineroar matchup. So it just becomes a lot more volatile than certainly Reg H, and certainly the glory days of a Reg B where we're playing Arcanine, Amoonguss, Palafin mirrors, and those last for hours.
Yeah,
That's real Pokemon. What's going on here? It's
you are correct.
uh,
Yeah, I like that. This is, especially with us too. This is the fake out, protect into parting shot, spore into swap back in, and like throw some redirection in there. Like duo, like that for us. I mean, I can watch a player reposition their Incineroar and Amoonguss all day long until they get their big sweeper, whether it's like the setup Goldango, the Roaring Moon, the Landorus, getting that Pokemon in position to just take 4 straight KOs. I just love watching that. I think it's very skill intensive. You need to be like making sure you get not just that specific turn right, but you're just planning through the next 4 or 5 turns. It's very, but also like if you're watching this for fun, it's you're it could turn into a bit of a snooze fest. You are right though. Like a lot of these balance pieces, and I think we can kind of just dive into this to an extent. With the first place team, carry Dorotona. Yep, Diortona.
yeah, run that one back, Big Doug. You got it.
Carry Diortona. Reading is so tough. That's why I went to school for numbies. Uh, like, if you looked at this 6, I didn't show you the like. If I didn't show you the sets or anything, you just looked at this 6 group of 6 Pokemon. Incin, Urshifu, Amoonguss, Waterfire Grass, Roaring Moon is your Dragon type, Goldango as your Ghost type, and then Lando. Like, this looks like balance with some offense pieces. That's what it looks like on paper. And to say that it's not, like, I wouldn't really call this like a true balance. This team, there's a shit ton of offense. You're running the Specs Goldango with the Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, which I think is a really cute tech right now. There's a lot of dragons, or at least like people like going into Terra Dragon, especially even on their own Goldangos going Terra Dragon. Roaring Moon had a really great weekend, as we could see, not only from this team, but third place. We saw a decent bit of Regidragos on the field. A lot of people are running Dark types. Going Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam with Specs just feels really strong. And then, like, the other Pokemon, like, Landorus just does so much damage. Landorus can between Earth Power and Sludge Bomb. Landorus just one-shots the Balance Core. Like, there's just so much damage out there that even your Balancy team, like, this is... It looks like balance, but it's offense.
Yeah, I'd say this is like that bulky offense, kind of style. And there are some really cool pieces here, or not pieces, but really cool innovations. The Terrafire on Urshifu, I had gotten a little bit of a sneak preview of that. Shout out Keon Scion, the real Keon in the North America VGC. He got on Terrafire on his, I think it was Mystic Water. Or no, it ended up being Life Orb Urshifu, but still,
Yeah.
the Terrafire is really, really nice. Allows you to just completely flip the interaction with Ogerpon Hearthflame on its head. It allows you to, pretty reliably just sit in front of Rillaboons, especially the ones that don't have high horsepower, which admittedly are few and far between at this point in the format. But you get a lot of really nice resistances with it. Of course, the Fairy resist as well. That's a pretty common theme on this team, is just what are the primary attacking types that are going to cause issues for this Pokemon, and how can I solve that with the Terra? See the same thing with the Terra Poison Roaring Moon, and I think the really cool one, the Terra Flying Incineroar, again, lets you flip the interaction with Landorus.
Yeah, it lets you flip the interaction with Landorus. Honestly, really helps you flip the interaction with Urshifu as well, because now Urshifu, if they decided to go for like a close combat into you instead of going for the Surging Strikes, well, even if it's if they went Surging Strikes, they go from super effective to neutral, and if they clicked CC, it goes from super effective to not very effective, which is really great. I know with this Poison Roaring Moon, this set is based on the Oh my god, I forgot which player it was. The English player, the British player that like runs the weird sets that everyone loves.
You're not talking about Jack Clark.
No, I'm not
Are
talking
you
about
talking about
Jack
Jamie
Clark.
Boyd?
Yes, yeah, Jamie Boyd was the
You
first. Like,
forgot Jamie Boyd.
I don't think of Jamie Boyd too
Wow.
often. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not saying I'm
Not
a hater, but like, yeah, I don't think of Jamie Boyd too often.
not a
Anyways, this is
believer
a
in Boyd. Sorry.
yeah. I'm not believing in Boyd right now. Well, sort of. This was a set that he first showcased in Regulation E. This supportive Roaring Moon using Breaking Swipe as a damage mitigator on the team to go along with the Incineroar's Intimidate to just really knock down the physical capabilities of your opponent's team, along with the booster speed Tailwind to act as really great speed control into a lot of the format. Again, just being a dragon type feels relatively good. Being a dark type always feels good in this format, with or at least mostly does.
A
You're
lot of the
hitting,
times it does, yeah.
yeah. Like I mean, like there's the Flutter Mane of it all, but click the Terra button.
Yeah, and a
It's
lot of
clicking
them
the
don't
Terra
have
button.
Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah,
So you're
but
okay.
yeah, like this is just in general. I think this is just a really cool team. Um, Again, that's like playing that bulky offense, but being like true offense and allowing its Pokemon to just be able to swing. In the finals versus Paul Chua, who was our second place player, I think the thing that I really got, the feel I really got from Kerry's team compared to Paul's is that Kerry never really had to wait to press the go button. He just went. And that immediate pressure, he was able to run this bulky offensive, like on like quick glance balancey team, but just run it as straight offense and be balance breakers. Which you kind of alluded to. It's like none of these Pokemon they always felt like there was something on Kerry's team that could just break one of these pieces, and the second you lose one of them, the rest of the team falls apart.
A little bit. Once you lose one of your fake out guys, all of a sudden now the Raging Bolt becomes a little bit tougher to protect. Especially when Carrie was able to get such big damage on it early in
Mm,
those games. Um, but it really just comes down to, how do you manage all your balanced pieces against a well played Incineroar and Landorus Incarnate.
yeah,
There's everything on this team that deals with Landorus hates to see an Incineroar, and
and vice versa.
vice versa. The Urshifu is maybe the one that you could, say is kind of fine, but even then, you know, there's an Amoonguss on the other side.
And
Like
I think that
it's
was the other real thing that, like, the way Kerry played their Amoonguss, using the Amoonguss to the Amoonguss plus Terra to protect their Urshifu, going like the Terra Fire, knowing that I can just like by going Terra Fire, all of a sudden the Fluttermane, the Incin, the Ogerpon, and outside of the high horsepower, the Rillaboom, like four of Paul's six Mons can't do anything into the Urshifu. And now you're playing that Pokemon right next to Amoonguss, which honestly, the Sludge Bomb on Amoonguss is also really good into this team. You're hitting Fluttermane, Ogerpon, and Rillaboom for serious damage.
yeah, we got to see that in a couple of carries sets for sure, but just in general when Amoonguss was on stream this weekend, we saw a lot of sludge bomb clicks,
Hmm.
even when the Amoonguss wasn't taunted.
Yeah.
Carrie did that in, I think it was turn one, maybe even game one against Brenton Zhang.
Yep.
Just to get damage down on the opposing Incineroar, because that's going to be the difference between, say, your Landorus picking up the KO later in this game, or your own Incineroar beating it 1v1. It that was another big takeaway was we got to see, plenty of new faces this weekend, and that was incredible. But
Hmm.
in Regulation F, at least, in our first official tournament, the players who did the best, who had the best performances this weekend, are generally people who have been around for a couple of years, who have been really, really grinding this game, and who have been able to think many, many turns ahead
Yeah.
in what they're doing. Whether that's HO or balance. just having that forethought of how do I actually make progress in this board state. Just, we saw some really, really high level play, especially in Top Cut, which was nice to see.
Yeah. I know, and I mean, talking about the team, there really isn't a ton to talk about in general. This is the classic Calm Mind Balance, Terra Fairy, Lefties, Raging Bolt. This is the sort of team that, honestly, we thought was just going to come back into the format and kind of dominate. Paul is arguably the best balanced player on the planet, and so for him to just play a team like this and have incredible amount of success with it makes a lot of sense. But as we go through a lot of the other teams, I don't think you're going to see a lot of Calm Mind on the Raging Bolt. So yeah, we can move on to Jack Clark, who you already mentioned on the mentioned. This is a pretty cool team. I think out of the teams that we're going to see in Top Cut, at least, I think this one has the most heat, sort of, maybe?
By far, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we have here, we are using, this is a very, very bulky screens team with the Grimmsnarl, and then going through the rest of the pieces, you have Assault Vest, Terra Water, Okidogi, the Citrus Berry, Terra Dragon, Goldango with Hex, and you're running Hex because of the Thunder Wave on Grimmsnarl. Once you spam those Thunder Waves to start everything off, that makes everything slower than the Goldango, and Hex just does significantly more damage to a Pokemon that has a status affliction than Shadow Ball does. I believe Hex is 100 base power, 120.
It's 65, and then it doubles.
And it doubles, so 130.
130.
Yeah. So that is a lot of damage it's able to put out, like significantly more than a Shadow Ball, and that could also be a situation where Jack knows the Hex calcs in his head probably without status and with status, and the opponent, like, they're just used to the Shadow Ball calc. That's anything you can do to throw off the internal calculator of your opponent's always going to be good. We go with the Sword Stance on Ogerpon. You're able to get away with not running the redirection because of the screen support. Again, this is another more supportive Roaring Moon, but this is more of the standard Terrafly Roaring Moon, running Tailwind, Acrobatics, Knockoff, and the Booster Speed. And finally, to round everything off,
this Roaring Moon actually was Booster Attack.
It was Booster Attack. Wow, okay, I missed that.
Yeah.
Booster Attack, my mistake. You're not used to seeing Booster Attack and Tailwind on a Roaring Moon together.
No, but it was very, very effective, and it does kind of what you want a Landorus to do, which is deal with all the balance pieces.
Yeah.
You just start blasting them, and then once your Roaring Moon gets intimidated a couple of times, now you set Tailwind so that your +2 Ogerpon or your Golden Go or whatever can just win in the end game.
Yeah, and also the Entei is another one of those win in the end game Pokemon. Choice Band Terra Fairy, again sticking with a more defensive Terra. Sacred Fire, E-Speed, Stone Edge, and Stomping Tantrum. If Entei and Regulation F, it's like the bit of Littleroot lessons that I went to call the B tier Mon, and every time I see it, it does well. At last week's challenge, that I finished in Top Cut, the 3 sets I lost, all 3 of those sets were against Entei. So I feel like it's my still cosmic retribution for saying that the Pokemon was mid 2 years ago and just still getting punished over it.
It should. Entei's an awesome Pokemon. That's the thing, is like as much as I don't love Regulation F, any tournament or any format that can produce a tournament where Paul Chua has a wonderful day and an Entei makes Top Cut, unfortunately that's a good format. Like darn,
Yeah. No, I think this was a cool team. The Okidogi is something that we saw a bit of at the end of Regulation F Part 1, it winning a Latin American regional. Again, it's a Pokemon that can kind of act as a weird balance breaker, being a fighting and poison type, like, that doesn't care about Intimidate, You're able to threaten the Incineroar with your Drain Punch, or honestly, even the upper hand to just stop it from clicking Fake Out. The Gunk Shot to get all the grass types. Like, Urshifu, you can go Terra Water, and all of a sudden Urshifu's like, into you. And it really can't even click CC into you because you're poison typing. Like, it's a bulky defensive mon that has a solid enough attack stat and a lot of just really high power moves it's able to take advantage of.
Yeah, and cool thing with this Okidogi, a lot of them run knockoff, this one going high horsepower, just to give you another move to hit Raging Bolt. I
Mhm.
think anything that you can have for that Pokemon is really valuable. I think we saw that bear out. But but yeah, this is the exact kind of team that I always want to play. You
Same,
know,
kind of.
you can just choose what pace the game moves at. You can either play your super super bulky Grimmsnarl game, you get your screens up, you thunderwave everything, the game moves at a crawl, or you can just go Roaring Moon Entei and start blowing things up immediately with big burst damage. You can set up your sweepers so that your Ogre Pawn or your Golden Go gets boosted up for an end game. It's very cool when you're in the driver's seat, and when you're not, it unfortunately things can fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, because with a team like this, I mean, you are playing with, when you're clicking Thunderwave, you're always playing an RNG game, not just with your opponent, but with you potentially missing. Along with having high horsepower as a move that can miss, and Gunk Shot. Like, there is a lot of RNG-ish stuff with these two Pokemon on the bottom of the screen, along with at the top of the screen with the aptly named Stone Miss and Sacred Fire, which Sacred Fire can miss 5% of the time. It's not a perfect accuracy move.
Just so
Um,
rude.
it is, but also if you're giving a coin flip burn chance, like,
That's
I get it.
You gotta balance it, yeah.
Yeah. So with this team, or at least this style of team, you are accepting some RNG on your end where I might miss a move, but you're also accepting some RNG of, yeah, I'm gonna T wave spam all four Pokemon on my opponent's team, and I'm going to get turns where they just don't move. Um, yeah, like my first tournament, I was going to run Scary Face Grim, and Chalky told me last minute, no, run T Wave. It's the same result. They can't switch out of it. Sure, you might miss, but also you might be able to just win a game because you get a paralysis and you just takes a game that you should not have taken. And I literally won my game 2 round 7 because I got the paralysis on my opponent's Pokemon, and I took I took a set that should have went to a game 3. Like, you are fully accepting with this Pokemon when you're playing it that you are the villain, and honestly, it's okay to be the villain.
When it works, for sure.
Yeah, when it works. Also, yeah, when it works, oh, it works, and you also have to accept that sometimes the good guy wins, and by the good guy, I mean you miss your T Wave and your Grimmsnarl gets blown up, and the rest of your team can't keep pace.
Yeah, unfortunate, but again, we need to balance
Yeah.
things like that.
Moving on to team number 4, Justin Tang, another player who, again, we've seen a lot.
Yeah, and another player who I think really excels in these kinds of formats. The formats that really benefit balance, bulky offense. This team's
Yeah.
certainly more on the offensive end of the spectrum, but when you know how to apply those pressures as well as he does, very practiced with this kind of team comp, things just have a knack of falling into place for you, I think.
Yeah, and like we were saying, like, yeah, like, I don't know, I always try to play the screens grim, like, pick your pace thing, and it's just every time I've tried a lot of like the heavy screen stuff, it's just not worked for me. I feel like this is also just a type of team that I'm trying to work with right now. This balancy pieces. You have your Fire, Water, Grass with Rilla, Ogerpon, and the Urshifu. Again, 2/3 of a fantasy core. Running Reggie Drago as your dragon type this time, and the Specs Goldango. This one being Power Gem instead of the Terra Fairy, and having the Tailwind Pokemon where it's like you have your balancy stuff, but like you can just lead Torn, Terrasteel, Specs Dango, or Torn Drago, or even just L Torn Ogerpon, you just commit your Terra Fire immediately. You have so many just go buttons, so to speak, to press to put on this immediate pressure and to break your opponent's balance score, where again, like they lose a piece because they just let something eat a Draco Meteor or Dragon Energy, or the Terrasteel Make It Rain just destroyed everything on their field. Like that's stuff that is able to make quick of your opponent, and if they're trying to match pace or you don't have that positioning, okay, I have my defensive backbone. I have types that really complement each other defensively, where I can start making some switches. I'm going to reposition, and then when I get in position again, I can click the go button.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. You've got your. I think the foundation of these kinds of teams is you have a lot of pieces that complement each other offensively really well. Of course, the Regidrago and the Golden Go, your two spread moves, nothing really stands up to those, that combination. But you still have such a strong, balanced core of your types that between the Fake Out on the Rillaboom, the Follow Me with Ogerpon, like, you can play a slower paced game and still get it out of there. You've got your Choice Scarf Urshifu even, which is at this point a little bit of a throwback, I guess.
Yeah.
All of the Urshifus, tending to run a little bit slower, but you have your ways between your Double Grassy Glide and your Choice Scarf Urshifu to just win against opposing Tailwind teams, just move faster than them. And against Trick Room, I think you just lead Regidrago Golden Go, start clicking the funny buttons.
Yeah, like what are they going to like? What are they going to do? Click wide guard, but like yeah, if they don't have wide guard, which going to the next Trick Room team, Aaron Brock did not have wide guard in his Trick Room team. I don't think he really appreciated seeing Make It Rain into Dragon Energy.
No, I don't know if they had to play each other.
Hypothetically speaking.
But hypothetically, certainly, I
Yeah.
don't think that goes too well. Of course, that's kind of the entire point of the Choice Specs Fluttermane of these compositions is I just need something that is immune to Regidrago and also can just, get damage on the board early.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of team that, I would try to play something like Jack Clark and I'd probably just end up here.
This is kind of, yeah, I think we're both in the same boat, because when you look at this team and you look at the player, like the types of teams that our group always comes back to, it always comes back to a bear, whether the bear is on 4 legs or 2 legs. For everyone, for almost our entire group of builders, it always comes back to a bear plus a tiger, a mushroom, and a Trick Room setter.
Yeah, oftentimes those last 3, but certainly,
yeah,
we love our bears.
We absolutely shout out Provincetown. It's nice with seeing Cresselia on this team. We've seen the Terraflying Porygon 2 in Regulation F pass. But I think one of the big things with Regulation F is people returning to Cresselia. On that same Latin American team I referenced earlier with the Okidogi, they also had Cresselia on it, and it won a regional. I think one of the cool things with Cresselia is that, unlike a Pokemon like Farigiraf, which sometimes can be, okay, my Trick Room's up, what am I doing? Cress always feels active because of the fact that you always have the Lunar Blessing to click.
Yeah, there's always something for Cresselia to do. The problem is, of course, if you leave it by itself, there is certainly a limit to what it can do.
Absolutely.
But it is just so hard. It's so good at supporting the Pokemon that it's that surround it, that it's so hard to get to that point. To get past the Ursaluna that all of a sudden now has 175% of its regular HP.
Yep.
Or, the Urshifu now after an Icy Wind that's going to outspeed your whole team.
Or even just letting the Fluttermane go even harder into getting position and doing damage. Just clicking the Icy Wind to break, having the Icy Wind to be able to pick up any sash that popped up, or just set up the second round of Dazzling Gleams coming your way next turn.
Yeah. Just another very a Pokemon that requires a lot of forethought as you're preparing your game plan, and the rest of the team just really sits in that same pocket.
Yeah,
You've got your classic Fire Water Grass with your Urshifu, Incineroar, and Amoonguss, your two big damage dealers, one physical, one special. It's just
and your speed control.
and your
No,
speed
I
control.
think I think if you're looking at just if you had to look at what textbook team building is, I think that like Aaron's team right here really hits it out of the park. Like you're again, you have your type core, you have balance aspects of damage, you have speed control, you also have very obvious leads, you have very obvious game modes, and like I just with some of these teams, I think what's kind of difficult for people who pick up like balance for the first time, going back to a team like carries, it's like, okay, what's my win condition? Like, what mode am I trying to get to? And the answer usually is whatever is necessary to win the game. With Aaron's team, it's a lot more straightforward. It's simply, I want Ursaluna in Trick Room next to Cresselia, and I'm going to click Earthquake or Headlong Rush or Facade, anywhere from, depending on the moves, 2 to 4 times in Trick Room, while Cresselia just keeps on clicking Lunar Blessing to make sure that I stay healthy.
Yeah, and what an annoying interaction playing against these kinds of teams. Be it that when the Ursaluna gets reburnt after the Lunar Blessing heals it, it
It
doesn't
doesn't
take the
lose
burn
HP.
chip.
Yeah, which is actually,
That's
it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that makes Cresselia so strong is that it is so good at enabling some very specific partners. There was a lot of talk going into this tournament that Cresselia Ursaluna felt pretty underrated, and yeah, I think we see exactly why.
Yeah, no, one of these comps that can do a lot, and again, it's the ability for it to be a balance breaker where facade like not it's unless they're going Terra Ghost, sure, like they can do stuff like have the Rillaboom set up the terrain to make Earthquake hard to use. But bottom line is nothing on these teams, or really nothing in the format that isn't a ghost type, likes eating a facade. Like even your steel types are going to be getting like in some cases held to hit KO'd if you're switching in a steel type into a facade with the guts boost going on it. It just breaks teams down, and you get enough. And if you're able to just get enough KOs with the Ursaluna, where your Fluttermane or your Urshifu or even the Assault Vest Incineroar, which usually is running a little more offense, we've seen Adamant Adamant Incin has been popping up a lot. If you look at the Munch stats data right now, which I'm just give me a minute.
He's hacking into the mainframe.
I
He's
am
almost
hacking into
there.
the main team. Adamant is so for the last month of Regulation F on Showdown for players with a rating of 1760 or higher, which is the default setting for Munch stats data. Almost 30% of Incineroar were Adamant. So that's a good bit. People are putting offense onto this Pokemon, like going Adamant 36 invest, which is the first bump. It's on paper, it's not a ton of investment into like stat wise. But you're able to do that like little bit of investment because you have the assault vest boosting your special attack and special defense. But like that's enough where against a Pokemon like an Amoonguss or a Rillaboom or even Fire Ogerpon, like after they've gotten chipped a teeny bit, Flare Blitz is messing them up.
Oh yeah, and if you go just a little bit more, I want to say maybe 68 is what's needed to guarantee the one hit KO on like Golden Go Rillabooms.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's yeah. Yeah, like I think 36 gets like you're definitely like 2 KO and doing like 80ish% where if your partner Pokemon puts some chip on it beforehand, it can easily clean up. But yeah, like it only takes like if you go to 68, 72ish or something like that, I'm not
Well,
sorry.
72 is not a number.
76.
Thank you.
I
Well,
know.
but
I
certainly, around that range, you start getting combinations like your Flare Blitz sets things up for Aqua Jet to pick it up, or after an Icy Wind, your Flare Blitz is going to get KOs. There's hidden offense on this team too, which is exciting. But of course, just another very, very strong, well built, balanced team, and it's going to be certainly different from what we're about to look at. I think can't use
Yep,
the same words.
Kyle Van Severin, with the so it's not 2-2-2. It's like 2-2-1-1. It's like an odd man
Sure.
for it's like an exotic odd man front that you would see like Jim Schwartz use or something.
Heck yeah, man. No, 100%. And I think the audience is really going to love that one.
Yeah, no, I
I think
mean
the
like
Little
it is
Lessons audience
Sunday.
is really going to love the Jeff
It's a
Shorts.
it's a Sunday during football season. I had to throw something in there
Yeah.
somehow. Yeah, this is kind of just Dozo, and then you have all these offensive pieces like Shiyu makes everything else on the team besides the Dozo do so much damage. And odds are you're not going to have the Dozo next to the Shiyu because the Dozo's next to the Tatsugiri, so that like little like lack of synergy doesn't even matter.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, I think it's a good team.
Yeah,
There are, and as a non-seasoned Dondozo player, I know Kylan has been playing Dondozo, and I think this team more specifically, like for a while, like that, they're one of the better Dondozo players, or at least one of the more practiced in North America. We just saw a couple of times on stream where not having leftovers, for example, on the Dondozo really made a big difference. The Dondozo against a Landorus now all of a sudden is getting pretty consistently 3-hit KO'd by Earth Power. And if that Landorus is supported by, say, an Amoonguss or, an Ogerpon that's redirecting the Dondozo's attacks, now it becomes pretty difficult to deal with that Pokemon. Landorus not just a balance breaker, but look at this. What on
yeah,
this team wants to sit in front of a Landorus?
nothing. I mean, like,
Yeah,
yeah, nothing. Especially, I mean, the Tatsugiri, because your choice scarf and you can hope and pray for the funny button. But
yeah,
everything else really doesn't really enjoy sitting in front of the Landorus. One of the cool things for people running the timid Landorus is that you're always going to outspeed the Chiyu. And yeah, if you're running that max speed timid Landorus, everything on this team at normal speed, besides like the Flutter and the Tatsu, are outsped and immediately threatened.
it becomes pretty tough to maneuver around, but you do have the pieces to do that. Of course,
Mm.
you've got your double Icy Wind Pokemon, the classic Taunt Speed Booster Flutter Mane, and a couple of just nukes between Overheat on your Chiyu and Meteor Beam on Glamora. You have ways to just deal so much burst damage early in the game that even if you don't get your Toxic Spikes up, the Rocky Helmet Dondozo against all the physical attackers in the format, you're going to be able to get things in range for that Pokemon to just click Earthquake or Order Up and win at endgame.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. Like we were talking about, like how dangerous the Landorus is. If the Lando's switching into this overheat or the meteor beam, it's if it's surviving, it's surviving with only a sliver of health. And these are, and you can say that though with a lot of Pokemon in the format, not many things can switch into one of Glamora's meteor beams or one of Chiyu's overheats. These are two of the most powerful options you can click in the entire game. And again, these are yet again moves that can miss, but that is the balancing act. Because when they do hit, it's game breaking. You're getting a KO immediately with when you're connecting on these moves.
Yeah, and I just, just for my own edification, went through, see how many other Dondozas were around, trying to push that narrative that it really is the players who are very practiced with these team compositions that are performing well, especially early in
I'm
Regulation
going
F
to
Part 2. Yeah, how many other Dondozas do you think were in Day 2?
I'm going to guess 3.
Wow. There were three, only two of them had Tatsugiri. There is one solo dozo.
Okay, there's a solo dozo, and I'm
Or I
gonna because
guess, so there are four total,
mhm.
including Kylan.
Okay, yeah, but I'm saying yeah, three more is what I meant. I'll even go a step further. I'm going to guess that the next ranked dozo player was Adrian.
No,
No, did Adrian day two, right?
no, he didn't. I
He
think
did
he went
not.
5 and
Wow,
3.
wow.
Um,
Lost the win
but
then.
there was one other Dundozo in Top Cut, finished at 15th. There's one Jose Mejia to, oh my goodness, to Psycho. That's my bad.
So not top
But
cut, just missed top cut.
oh shoot, yeah, just missed Top Cut. Never mind. So the only Dozo in Top Cut is Kylan.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like I mean, when we were talking about like practice players, like Adrian's like another one of these like well-known dozo players. Like the people who play this mon, I think it's one of the other reasons why people with this comp do so well, who have practiced so well, is that the pieces around it have relatively changed. I mean, some of them like the Glamour, Chiyu, Flutter, that hasn't changed in years, but the basis and the idea of the team being like maximizing your Dondozo and your like the Dondozo turns with the Tatsu combined, that's been pretty like the way you have done that is a little different, but like the basic concept of it has been the same ever since Regulation A, and it comes down to yes, Kylan's been playing this for so long, and he knows Dozo so well that any possible thing you can think of to counter it, he's already thought of because he's been doing this and dealing with people trying to counter this team since 2020, like since January of 23. Like it's the same with someone like Ben Grismer playing like the size spam trick room teams and stuff. These are comps that are memes, so to speak, but the players who do really well with them do really well with them because not only are they amazing players, but they also have so much practice and muscle memory with these teams that even in a on paper bad matchup, they've practiced that matchup more times than you've practiced all of your matchups combined with the amount of years that they've been able to play this team.
Yeah, that is one thing about Dondozo players is they love playing Dondozo. They're gonna get up and practice with that guy.
Yeah,
It's really annoying.
it is, but like I don't think it's an unfair comp.
No.
It like it's something like this isn't a Chansey Shuckle or Smeargle like Alolan Muck. Like it's there are I think there's definitely like the top watching top Dundozo players use the team. There is a lot of skill expression there that differentiates the person who picks up like 222 or like a Dundozo team to just like try to like roll through the like the grand challenge or global challenge and watching players like Kylan like play this team. It's honestly it looks like two different teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the next team, which is kind of similar to what we saw. This is Eric Stewart's 7th place team. Um, going with a concept that is a little familiar and reminiscent of Regulation F Part 1, running the Tornadus, Fergaraf, Ursaluna, Tail Room, but this time we're going again with the Ursaluna on 4 legs, the Hisuian variant instead of the Blood Moon variant.
Yeah, it was not a great weekend for Blood Moon or Saluna, which is a little bit surprising because it generally has a pretty solid matchup into Raging Bolt, but certainly Hisuian Ursaluna performed a lot better. And on this specific team composition, you know, you're just seeing kind of a remix of the other teams that we've already looked at. We're at that point in the list where it's tough to say a lot of new things about each individual Pokemon, but the way that they're combined on this team, I think, is what's interesting. As you kind
Yeah,
of alluded to, the tail room setup, so you can choose whether you want to outspeed your opponents the natural way or flip the dimensions. You just have so much offense between the Ogerpon, the Ursaluna, and the Fluttermane, and then your one fake out Pivotmon to try to glue it all together.
yeah,
And it's just nice seeing Eric Stewart back and
it really
especially
is.
performing well at tournaments. Yeah, I don't think he went to a ton in the last, like, honestly, maybe even 2 years. But it's
Yeah,
just
who does he
nice
think he
seeing
is,
him back
me?
on stream. That's funny.
That's so good. But yeah, it was cool seeing him back on stream, like, especially in 2023, it felt like he was everywhere, and he had a massive breakout season. And yeah, this is just one of those things where it's like really great players are coming back to this format and still being really great, because of how just the general skills of planning ahead and working with, like, again, like different glue pieces, that it's the sometimes different names but same concepts, and just having a lot of success doing that. So yeah, this was another really cool team, a really interesting way to look at playing this Pokemon in the Ursaluna that isn't just that set, like, very straightforward balance plus trick room mode team that we saw with Aaron Brock's team. Now, moving on to the next team. This is another one where we're seeing like a lot of balanced yet bulky offense. This is a Dorian Kang's team who finished in 8th place. We have the double choice items with the Banded Hisuian Arcanine and the Specs Galarian Moltres, AV Raging Bolt, the Clear Amulet on Rillaboom, and you're rounding out with the very supportive, like, bulky Taunt, Icy Wave, Icy Wind, Thunder Wave, Fluttermane, and the Ogerpon Wellspring.
Yeah, this is, I think, my second favorite team behind Jack Clark's in our top 8. Just because, again, you have some amount of innovation here. There is, and not just innovation, but really cool innovation. I kind of alluded to it earlier. The Terra Ground high horsepower clear amulet Rillaboom, that's awesome. You've got
Mm,
your Terra Fire Fluttermane, Galarian Moltres. I think every time it pops up, it's just cool to see.
yeah,
It's a fun Pokemon to root for. Similar with the Hisuian Arcanine, it's fun to root for it to hit its head smashes just because I want to see how much damage that thing can really do.
yeah. I think one of the cool things, just in general, we've seen this 6, or at least variants of this 6, during our coverage throughout December into January from our VR events. The Fluttermane Hisuian Arcanine lead was doing very, very well in the grassroots tournaments, backed with, again, your balancing pieces. Like, usually it was the Ogerpon and the Raging Bolt, and then you had other Mons just filtering through. Like, we've seen Galarian Moltres with this team. We've seen Rillaboom with this team. Other Mons were like Sneasler. Those were all different Mons that we would see with it. And I think the Galarian Moltres just feels really good into this format because of all of the Pokemon that are weak to either dark or either flying type damage, and having these specs as a way to put out immediate damage with your spread moves, Fiery Wrath and Snarl, and then also threatening your opponent where, yeah, if you do hit me, I'm going to have specs and a +1 boost, and so I'm going to be really hitting you hard. Like, that's really cool. One of the reasons why Moltres was doing really well is for the next team that we see, Ethan Trejo. I do believe the two of them played each other in their like in the first round of Top Cut leading into top 8. If it wasn't them, I know
It
for a
was
fact
them.
it was okay.
Yeah.
And this is actually a perfect thing to explain. So the Galarian Moltres with your Fiery Wrath and your Air Slash, you're hitting the Urshifu super effective, you're hitting the Ogerpon super effective, you're hitting the Indeedee super effective, you're hitting the Iron Crown super effective. Nothing on this team can really switch into switch into one of the two like main moves you're going to see the Galarian Moltres click. And I think that's why like being a dark type was really cool in this format. Again, even the offensive Incineroars is to punish this 6. This 6 was initially used by Justin Karras in Orlando, or was it Orlando or Charlotte?
It was
Orlando?
Orlando. Yeah.
Orlando
Orlando
2024.
24.
Yep. And it popped back for a solid, I'd say, month or so. When you look at like the Lab Mouse Top Teams tool, you would usually see this 6 or some small iteration of this 6 of like Iron Crown and Deity as the top team. Um, Going into the format or this tournament, I was kind of feeling it could potentially be like the Latios balance of Reg F Part 1, where it was the most dominant team of I'm not February, of December the year before. And then we get to the actual tournament and it just kind of does nothing. Well, Ethan did a lot more than any of the Latios players did back in Portland of 24, but have like people like brought the Roaring Moon, yeah, the Roaring Moons and the, as we just saw, the Glaring Moltres sometimes to just completely punish this team. And again, nothing to say, like, this is again a very, very strong, powerful team. I just think that it's one that the meta around it really matters, and when people are expecting it and can run text to counter it, it just becomes really difficult to pilot.
Yeah. Classic meta manipulation team.
Yeah. This is a team where we're like, oh, we're going to be out on it, and then by like Seattle regionals or whatever our last, like by like Seattle or Houston, it's just going to pop up and finish top 4, and it's going to run through everyone because no one's like, all of a sudden the AV Incins are going back to a berry, or they're going back to like safety goggles, and the dark type paradox mons and Galarian Moltres are nowhere to be found because no one's really afraid of it. Like, that's kind of when this team's going to sneak in and do insanely well.
Yeah. Now, I just want to make sure, are we going through all of Top Cut? I think the teams start to look pretty samey down there at the bottom for sure.
I was just about to say that. I mean, we should just give a few shout outs to the players.
Oh, for
sure. So again,
sure.
That was Ethan Trejo in 9th. Brendan Zhang in 10th place, again, playing a very like balancy team. What I do like with his team is I really like Raging Bolt with a damage boosting item. I've been playing the booster special attack Raging Bolt, and so seeing the Life Orb there is really neat. But yeah, it's a very, like, this is your standard good stuffs balance.
Yeah, and with the best Ogerpon form. Love to see Cornerstone, and we got to saw it do some really cool stuff on stream too.
I'm still a Wellspring girly. Fluttermane Wellspring Ogerpon is still like one of my favorite leads of Generation 9.
Yeah, of course. Like, yes, Wellspring Fluttermane is incredible. You know, we love our lesbian queens.
Yep.
And Cornerstone Ogerpon next to, an Urshifu, next
also
to
cool.
Your own Fluttermane, next to your Raging Bolt that now has sturdy redirection next to it, so it can afford to run Life Orb. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It just enables so many like more interesting plays.
Yeah.
Than a Wellspring Ogerpon that's gonna click follow me. It's gonna get its 60% with Ivy Cudgel. Cornerstone really, I think, opens up a lot of doors with just how consistent it is at its job. Also, it one hit KO's Firepon, which
it does.
Love to see that.
In 11th place, Noah Carney. This is our top placing Rain team. Rain is something that we didn't think, like, overall wasn't something on everyone's radar, let alone Rain with Pelipper as an option, which I think is really neat. Using the No Protect Life Orb Pelipper to, again, really put out a lot of damage and at least make the Pokemon at least be a nuisance, where if you ignore it, it's going to be doing a lot of damage, and if you do damage into it, the Archaludon or the Urshifu in Rain is going to punch you or electrocute you.
Yeah. Similar ideas as just, you get your burst damage, you get your Rain Sweepers, your Life Orb Pelipper, and then you just surround it with balance pieces that try to make the most out of those Pokemon.
Yeah. 12th place, Emmanuel Boctor. This is the top-rated Blood Moon Ursaluna team. This is, again, very balanced. You have your Fire, Water, Grass with Incin. Actually, you have many Fire, Water, Grasses. You could do just Ogerpon, Urshifu, Incin, Amoonguss, Urshifu, Incin, Ogerpon, Urshifu. Regardless, you always need the Urshifu for the Water, Fire, Grass aspect of it. along with the Throat Spray Furgraf and the Blood Moon Ursaluna. Blood Moon, I think one of the really difficult things in this format is that just due to the way the format is played, you can't run it doing like the Calm Mind stuff that we would see, or the Yawn, or the AV, all the different sets of and flavors of Blood Moon Ursaluna that we saw in Regulation H. It's like very straightforward Life Orb Terra Normal with speed control on it. It's a very like offensive Pokemon instead of like balance piece Pokemon. And I think that's one of the reasons why it doesn't do as well into the format, because a lot of times if you're playing a Mon in that sense, like Calvin said this in Cats like a month ago or so, when we were like we collectively like individually got to a very similar team, and Calvin's thought was pretty much the Ursaluna is great, but it would probably just be better if you were running the Life Orb Landorus.
Yeah.
Because you aren't completely like dependent on the speed control.
Yeah, it's a speed tier thing. It's a being pretty frail on the special side issue.
Yeah.
You know,
This thing does not like the taunt Terra Fairy Fluttermanes kind of just eat comps like this alive. It's honestly why I moved away from it, because like you can't bring Fergaraf into that Pokemon, and when you can't do that, you have to like you're really playing to try to get rid of that Fluttermane. The Fluttermane itself, even if it's not threatening the taunt, it's still doing a ton of damage because of like it has a massive special attack stat naturally, and Moonblast is a very high base power attack. And then the Pokemon next to it's also is allowed to pretty much do whatever it wants to do, because you're so focused on getting rid of the Fluttermane to try to get your Trick Room up.
yeah, I'm a little bit surprised with just how common that Fluttermane set is, that we don't see a Mental Herb anywhere in this team.
Yeah.
You know, like the Furgraf and the Amoonguss are, of course, great candidates, but clearly Emmanuel had a fantastic weekend without it, so.
Yeah, just showing it like a similar team, or at least similar to the Balancy teams that we would see with the Ursaluna, we do see the Mental Herb and more supportive Furgraf in 17th place with Marcus Dion. And then rounding out Top Cut, we just have Justin Karras in 13th, again, playing balance. And Charles Moses playing the very classic like Flutterfish hyper offense that we would see a lot in Regulation F Part 1. We're seeing it still today. It is what it is. There's really not much to talk about with this team. It's the very good team is still very good.
Yeah, hey, hit your moves, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I did want to shout out favorite set of the weekend that we got to watch on stream. Justin Karras and Paul Chua's set in Top Cut. I thought that was just incredible Pokemon being played. You know, really, really high level balance mirror. You know, that is what the Regulation F is at its peak. And you know, that's why, as much as I disparaged the format earlier in the episode, you know, we are getting to see some really, really high quality Pokemon. And that's just awesome to see.
Yeah. So any teams you want to shout out? Players, I know, just real quick, because this is the New England podcast.
I got some agendas.
Rashiel, thumbs up. Awesome. Proud of you, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
Who else do we got?
Well, we got in 24th place our good friend Babji Joshi. But no, so a couple more interesting teams from day 2. There's a Screamtail that finished 90th. There was Eric Long.
Let's go down that.
The Citrus Berry Heatran. 2 Pokemon who I really like, you know, as well as a Cornerstone Ogerpon. I'm definitely going to be stealing this team. This is awesome.
This team is literally just Reg G Terapagos, but the Terapagos is a Raging Bolt.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's exactly what this is.
What did I bring to NAIC in 2024? You know?
Yeah, no.
This.
Literally, yeah, and then we told you not to bring it to Worlds.
And just, well, certainly not to Worlds. thankfully, I had the luxury of being in a position where I could afford to bring Screamtail Terapagos to NAIC.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just this team's very neat. There's an Iron Boulder and an Entei together in 65th place. That was Luke Kroll.
I'm
Um,
just going to get up there real quick.
yeah,
60.
and it's the Iron Boulder that we've kind of seen floating around a little bit here in the last couple of weeks. Your clear amulet, you're just surrounded by a bunch of other offensive pieces that enable the boulder to do what it does best, which is just swing away with Mighty Cleave.
Yeah.
It's
Rock is
yeah,
always a really good offensive type, and the fact that it has a rock type attack that is always going to hit and hit through protect is really great.
it's always going to hit. But of course, the agenda that I'm going to be pushing is, and you're going to have to find them again.
No, I
But
know where they
in
are.
CJ Schoenthaler had themselves a hell of a weekend, and I'm just
This
so proud of them.
this was like full blown like proud father moment for me. When they were going into the win and going into round 8, I was like, "You got this," and they were like, "I'm freaking out. Call me now." And I had to give the I had to do like the dad pep talk because somehow I've just become the adoptive father of like all of Southern New England.
Yeah,
Not all of it, but like a good bit. Um,
somehow, look at you, Angelo.
I found a
You
gray
know
in my
how.
mustache on Wednesday, and I wanted to play in traffic.
Oh
Um,
no. Hey, go start getting your checkups, big dog. I just, you gotta start getting that preventative colonoscopy. That's coming up for you. Your advanced age. I think you really need to start taking things a little bit more seriously.
I'm not going to say what I was about to say because that should not be on a podcast. Yeah. What's funny with this team? I know you were like, because it was CJ, you, and Chalky. And if
Yes.
you were able to go to the event, you were going to run this team.
With
For
with flame plate instead of charcoal, because I am correct about charcoal, but yes, it would have been this team.
Yeah. It's funny because Cable went and shared with a handful of us almost this exact 6, but instead of the Urshifu, it was a Decorate Smeargle and a Throat Spray Farigiraf. And I tried using that team with my USPA players, and it did not click for me at all. It's really suffered. But the funny part was when I was talking to the team with Carl's like, well, what if we put a Darkfu somewhere? And initially we were thinking like maybe over the Raging Bolt, but yeah, no, that didn't make sense. And so we were like, I'm just going to stick with the 6. So we had the 6 Mon that was correct for this team. We just were replacing the wrong Mon. Um, Take it away. Talk about what does this team do?
Yeah, I'll just go, pretty brief. Of course, we're borrowing a lot of concepts that have been around for a bit. I can't remember the team builder, but it was a Japanese team back in Regulation G that was very, very similar. I ended up bringing it to the Puerto Rico special event last season. Was Torkoal, Ogerpon, Cornerstone, Fluttermane, Dark Urshifu, but the last 2 slots were Calyrex Ice Rider and an Indeedee. Very, very similar team composition. The idea, of course, is that you just have so many tools. You've got essentially 2 focus sashes. You've got 2 Pokemon that can click Helping Hand. You've got a Torkoal that can give your Fluttermane and your Raging Bolt essentially 2 items, allowing your Fluttermane to have a choice Specs and a choice Scarf. Your Raging Bolt gets an Assault Vest and that, special attack boosts. It's a choice Specs,
Like
but better.
Life Orby.
Yeah, basically a Life Orb with no drawbacks. you know, you're just able to position the team so well. The idea, of course, being that you you can never get punished too hard just because all the pieces are so difficult to remove. Whether it's because they're putting on so much offensive pressure, like the Raging Bolt or the Fluttermane and the Sun, or like the Terrifier Farigiraf with the Citrus Berry, just survives every single hit. Um, the adjustment that Chalky and I had made, which again, shout out Chalky, finished 5-3, accomplished more than his goals for the weekend as well. I'm very, very proud to be a part of his run. Um, The big adjustment that we had made was going with Thunder Wave over Psychic on the Fergaraf. You take away a little bit of the damage potential, but this Fergaraf, of course, isn't invested all that much in its special attack anyway. But you just let it always threaten something on the
Yeah.
board. You can bring it to the games where you just want to bring the fast mode of the team, and now all of a sudden your opponent really has to respect the fact that your Fergaraf can just Thunderwave everything, and now your Urshifu or your Bolt or your Ogerpon outspeeds. It's
Yeah.
the same idea as all the toxic Fluttermanes out there, except we're clicking Thunderwave second on the turn, so it's
And I also,
fair.
yeah. And I also think one of the cool things with that is when you're playing this fast mode, one of the things that will threaten it is priority. And the Freegraph not only stops your opponent's faster Pokemon by slowing it down with the Thunder Wave, but it also stops them from ignoring the Thunder Wave by clicking a priority move because of the Iron Tail. I think this seems like really neat. Like I was just saying that it was something where I was thinking maybe I go back to this Torkoal like Furig stuff, and now I can just talk to you, Chalky, and CJ about it if I ever want to run this. Like the blueprints right here. I have the architects in my backyard, so I think that's like in general, it's just like a really cool team. And it's one of the things where it's like, see, from like looking at it specifically for CJ, Torkoal has been like a signature Pokemon for them in their entire VGC like run through from when we first met them, almost around 2.5, 3ish years ago to now, and to see the player that they've grown into and the fact that they just had their best result ever. They day two their first event and they did it with their signature Pokemon or one of their signature Pokemon. I think that in general is just a really, really, really great like full circle like storybook moment. That is one of the best parts of playing this game for me. It's not the winning and losing. It's the community. It's helping your friends and your locals and everyone you've met in this game, helping them be their best selves, not only within the game but outside of it. And I think this was a weekend where CJ was their best selves, both inside and out. So,
Truly, truly, just an honor
yeah,
to like for me to have been a part of the
this
creation
run.
process for it. Like it's awesome. And then of course, we would be remiss to not talk about right below CJ in the standings, Calvin Tobias, another very good friend. Um, I mean, Calvin's team is awful. I hate that, but
This is, but it's like a like Calvin just shows up with some sort of like balance.
yeah, with good stuffs,
Yeah,
again, the idea of just putting RNG in your favor is always going to be valuable. And then, of course, because everyone is preparing for this kind of team, you do have to pilot it better than everybody else, and that
you
is what
do.
Calvin did. They
Yeah,
had themselves a fantastic day one, and then, just really showed out with a team that a lot of folks are, you kind of know what's going on under the hood.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
that.
And with what we were just saying, like this Fluttermane Arcanine was one of the most popular teams going into the event. Again, if it wasn't the Iron Crown team that was going to be this weekend's like Reg F Latios balance, it was going to be the Fluttermane Hisuian Arcanine. Turns out Latios was just a massive fraud because the other two teams that were potentially in the Latios bucket ended up doing well, or at least having like a handful of results, a handful more than Latios had. And then yeah, you're just backing this with really strong Pokemon and just really strong balance, like just strong, balancy backbone Pokemon. Landorus is one of the stories of the weekend, really stories of the format. It's one of the best Pokemon in the format. It's one of the best offensive pieces. Not only as a hyper offensive, like it belongs in anything. You can play in hyper offense, balance, etc. It's always going to be good in its role. Ogerpon helps you get your water, fire, grass with only two Pokemon with the Arcanine. Raging Bolt is another standout Pokemon of the format. And the single strike Urshifu, giving you a way to punish those Iron Crown teams that we were talking about before, giving you that dark type coverage, while also adding in the ever important fighting type coverage that is just always good in VGC.
Yeah, of course, a very strong composition, but another one of New England's finest, doing very well.
So I think that is it for us. I didn't have a lot of other teams to go through or go over. Again, that we were going through this on the Poke Data. Labmouse should be updated by the time you're all listening to the podcast. And do you have any closing thoughts before? Because I know we have. We're going to be going. I think we're going to start getting back to the point where we have an event every single weekend. Because I'm looking at this upcoming weekend, and we have Birmingham Regionals, Merida Regionals, and the Auckland Special, all in the same weekend.
Yeah, y'all are gonna be feasting next week.
Yeah, this is exciting. It's like you know. For our pod and our process, would have it been nice to spread this stuff out? Yes. But we're just going to be going at it next weekend.
You all don't have a seat at the table with TPCI when they're making this?
No, I don't. No. And the people that we know who do have seats at the table probably are not going to say, oh yeah, my husband's friend's podcast needs a little help. Can you do this a week earlier?
See why that should be such a big issue for them.
Who can say? But then so you have Auckland, you have 3 events, and then nothing for 2 weeks, and then we go into Sydney, Santiago. It's going to be so much.
I'm going to be February is where things really start to kick back into gear.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a packed local.
We do
schedule over the next couple of months. Which shout out your local Pokemon leagues, kids.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. That's really all I got to say about them.
Yeah. But and I was just gonna say, outside of that, I think we're good. So June, where can the people find you?
Oh goodness, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm at Linty with 2 Y's. Don't post there as often as I probably should, but
you should.
We're getting back into things, taking it pretty slow. As far as competition goes, you can see me at New England locals if I'm able to get out of the house. In my current state, but other than that, I hope to see whoever, wherever.
Yeah, and you can also and you can also find the podcast and our hosts all on Blue Sky. The podcast at Littleroot Lessons, myself at Rose Tinted Cheeks, Carl at Musical, and Carter at Mr. Missouri 25. Carter has also been doing a ton of streaming on Twitch at Mr. Missouri 25. As we've talked about last week, a ton of stuff with Blue Kaizo and all of the other different hardcore Nuzlocke challenges that he's been doing. You can find the podcast itself on YouTube at Littleroot Lessons, on all podcatchers, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. at Littleroot Lessons, and hop into our Discord. We're going to have more and more people going into their events. People would love to have some discussion on the format, prep, and once Champions comes out, it is full go. So again, thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you next week.